The following podcast may contain adult language and an abundance of salt. So get ready, nerds, because we're going to talk about something. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Salty Nerd Podcast. Now, our weekly theme is good directors, bad movies. And we've talked about King Arthur and the Legend of the Sword by Guy Ritchie, and we've talked about Planet of the Apes by Tim Burton. We just couldn't think of another movie that would fit this genre very well. So we're kind of out of...
Yeah, you know, it's a shame because like one of the best directors to ever live is Steven Spielberg.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you'd think that maybe we could choose a bad movie of his, but that's really hard. Funny enough, actually, Jude and I just watched a Steven Spielberg movie. We went to the theater and we saw a re-release of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
I love that our local theater does that. It's really cool.
Too.
Yeah, it's too bad there's not like what if he made like a fourth movie?
I know it's weird that there's only 3 Indiana Jones movies.
Yeah,
I know. You know, I bet somewhere in the grand multiverse of the universe, there's a 4th indie movie, and there's probably some alter egos of ours that are like maybe reviewing that movie right now.
What if? Welcome, everybody, to the Sweet and Salty Podcast. I am your host, Alex, the Salty Nerd. Today, we're going to be talking about the 4th Indiana Jones movie, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And I'm joined, as always, by my fantastic panel of nerds. Matt Qui-Gon. What's up, dude?
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Oh, man, I'm really looking forward to this movie.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to talking about this.
No, I'm so happy that Steven Spielberg and George Lucas got together.
It's just an absolute masterpiece of filmmaking.
For a 4th, you know? Like,
Yes.
we thought we ran off in the sunset in the 3rd one, but they had something up their sleeve.
You know, they had stuff that they needed to talk about.
Yeah.
They had stories they wanted to tell.
Yeah.
And I
absolutely.
love them more for it every day.
Mhm.
I can't get enough of it.
And
It's incredible.
my other fellow podcaster, June Aaron. Welcome.
Oh no, you guys go first.
Oh, okay, all right. The I don't even know what to call you anymore, Mr. Kadish. Welcome, sir.
So I don't know much about movies or anything like that, but I do know that I loved this movie.
Absolutely.
I can't wait to talk about it with you guys.
It was so good, right?
It was almost as good as Rise of Skywalker.
Oh man, masterpiece.
I know there are very
Absolute
few 5-star
masterpiece.
movies on my roster, but Rise of Skywalker and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull are right up there.
Just groundbreaking pieces of entertainment.
Couldn't agree with you guys more.
I don't have an opinion at all.
All right. Before Jude takes over for our synopsis, or June, I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm calling you Jude.
Who, me?
Yeah, you're going to do the synopsis for us after we're done with this. We're going to take a quick break, and I'm going to drink some water, and then we'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Hey, if you guys like what we do here at the Sweet and Salty Podcast, you can go to the App Store of your choosing and download Dragon Champions. The developers over there really support what we do here, and we enjoy playing the game. Matt Vader over here is level 95. Kadish, I think you're at level, 22 or something like that?
I'm at like level 3.
Okay, yeah, you're working your way up there. But if you guys do get to level 20, you can join our guild. If you type in Salty in the promo code area, you can get a little leg up, and we can have a lot of fun over there at the Dragon Champions.
I don't have time to play mobile games, and like I just don't really like them all that much. But Dragon Champions, they're good people. I like them.
Good people.
I'm at level 3,000.
All right.
June loves
June.
mobile games. I can't get her to stop playing them. It's very annoying.
He gets mad at me all the time.
I want her attention.
I heard a rumor that she plays them during sex.
It's not a rumor.
I don't have sex.
Okay, well, June, go ahead and take it away for Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
All right. 2008 Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Directed by Steven Spielberg. Rated PG-13 with a runtime of 2 hours and 2 minutes. This had a box office of $790 million. What do you think the budget was?
You know, Steven Spielberg is really good at bringing in his movies under budget and on time. So I would probably say he probably spent maybe $80 million on this.
Okay. Vader?
I think you're right around in the right neighborhood. I'm going to go with like $90 million.
Okay, this had a budget of $185 million.
Oh, wow. That's very impressive. Good job.
Well done.
Yes.
I don't think I could do something this good with that much money.
It was just such a mind-blowing piece of cinema.
Let's get into it.
Okay.
Are you ready for the
June,
synopsis?
yes, give us the synopsis.
Aliens, am I right? Discuss.
Oh, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. The movie that...
Do you actually have a synopsis for it, Jude?
Nope.
No? Okay, cool.
Aliens. That's
Aliens.
not it. That's right.
It.
That is correct.
You know, I understand where George was coming from because I know he fought with Lucas, or not Lucas. He fought with Spielberg and Ford about doing the storyline. And he said if they didn't do the alien storyline, he wasn't going to be a part of the movie. And I'm like, okay.
Spielberg said that?
No, George Lucas said that.
Oh, my God.
Well, this was one of those situations where basically, so Harrison Ford, Steven Spielberg, and George Lucas always have to agree on the Indiana Jones movie that they're doing. And in this situation, George Lucas had it in his head where he was like, well, the first three movies were based off of like the classic serials that I used to watch in theaters growing up.
Mm-hmm.
But this movie, I want to be based off of the sci-fi B movies that I grew up watching. And so like he used that as his inspiration. He was like, instead of going with the religious route, I want to go the science fiction route. And Steven Spielberg was like, I don't like any of these ideas, but he's my best friend. So I'm just going to go along with whatever George wants. And this is right after like he started, you know, he was doing the prequels. And I don't know if you guys know this or not, but George Lucas is not a good writer. And so like when no one tells him his ideas suck and he's forced to come up with better ones, this is what we get.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's an idea guy.
He's an idea guy.
Yeah.
And they transcribed the conversation that they had about the first Indiana Jones movie, Raiders of the Lost Ark. And I read the script one time because I was a stupid nerd. And I read like their conversation that they had. And like George was the one who had all the freaking banger ideas. And I was like, oh yeah, that's in Raiders of the Lost Ark. That worked out really well. That's a cool idea. And Spielberg was the one who came up with like these campy, weird shit. Like, oh, I want to have Indiana Jones like use his whip to grab a beer can and chug it. And I'm like, no. Don't do that. So in my mind, I always pictured George as like, he's the one who knows the good ideas, and Spielberg is just really good at directing and making things happen on screen. But for this movie, when I learned that George was like, no, we have to do the alien storyline, I was like, why did anybody tell him? Like, no, dude.
And it's not just aliens. And this is the biggest issue I had with this movie. I mean, there's a lot of, you know, weird, campy. There's the chase scene and the fight scenes. They're all kind of in that vein, right? But the thing at the end where we're talking about interdimensional alien creatures in giant saucer-shaped spaceships that interdimension hop, that's not Indiana Jones. Yeah. To me, that is not.
It's out of place.
That's comic book bullshit, you know. And I'm not saying Indiana Jones is a comic book stuff, but Indiana Jones goes after religious artifacts. He fights Nazis.
Fortune and glory. You know, I didn't want old Indiana Jones when this movie came out.
Yeah.
And I'm really fucking pissed that I'm going to get geriatric Jones coming out later this year.
Yeah,
it's nonsense.
Harrison Ford was 65 years old when he shot this, and he looks old in this movie.
He does.
And I can remember like after the first fight scene, I just kind of go with it. But Harrison Ford was very adamant that they add in jokes about his age throughout the movie and all this other stuff. But like, you know, he's like over 80 now.
Yeah.
And he got seriously injured making the fifth Indiana Jones movie. And, you know, I was widely criticized by the director, James Mangold, for suggesting that Harrison Ford's a little bit too old to be doing like this action stuff. But rewatching this movie, I was like, man, he looks old in this movie.
Yeah. There's a couple of things like that really sets this apart for me, and what makes it like the joke that this movie doesn't exist between us. Like, freaking no, there was no fourth Indiana Jones.
I do not acknowledge this movie.
The beginning of this movie, immediately just takes your suspension of disbelief and throws it out the fucking window.
Well, it also breaks from the indie formula, right?
Yeah. Usually there's a prologue where it's like it has nothing to do with the story that we're going to be told, but it's like a little side adventure that he goes on, and it's like the ending of that adventure and then the beginning of the new one, which is what we're going to watch. Like that's the formula that we've always done more. This opening sequence is just part of the movie. Like it breaks from the formula.
I'm okay with the warehouse stuff. That wasn't bad. I mean,
it felt like it was shot on a soundstage.
It did. Yeah. If they had set this, maybe the Nazis wanted the Ark back. They go and they capture Jones and they want to go get their stuff out of the warehouse. That would have been fine. But this stuff, it was just weird. With
Steven Spielberg refused to make movies with cartoonish Nazis after Schindler's List because he's just like, I can't deal with Nazis anymore. And so the idea was that because of Harrison Ford's age, they get it into like the 50s where they have like the Cold War going. And so it would be a natural idea to make the Russians the bad guys.
Right.
And I'm totally fine.
That's fine.
They're basically Nazis in this movie anyway. So I was fine with like the Russians kind of like taking over the Nazi role.
Yeah.
But it's kind of funny. People who are Indiana Jones fans, you know how Happy Days had the jump the shark where something basically becomes bad once Fonzie jumps the shark. In this movie, the fans have coined the term nuked the fridge. So when a franchise goes bad, they've nuked the fridge, and that's directly related to this movie because the scene where Indiana Jones gets into the lead-lined fridge in order to survive a nuclear blast.
It's got lead. They explained it.
That was actually in one of the original drafts for Back to the Future.
That's right.
The time machine was supposed to be a refrigerator, right?
Yeah. And that luckily got changed, but like that was always kind of floating out there in Lucasfilm and Amblin and stuff like that. And so David Koepp, who's the screenwriter for this movie, basically like he worked with Spielberg on Jurassic Park and all this other stuff. And there were numerous drafts of this film. Basically after Last Crusade came out, they'd hired writers because they were under like a 5-picture deal with Paramount to make Indiana Jones movies. And so they had different scripts throughout. And the latest one was like Frank Darabont's take, which was going to be called Indiana Jones and the Martian Men from Mars or something like that. And they were developing it around like the mid 90s. And right as that happened, Independence Day came out and they were like, we don't want to do like another alien invasion movie. And so like they kind of put it on the shelf and they were kind of fine with, the Last Crusade being the final Indiana Jones movie. But then George Lucas got some type of bee in his bonnet and he's like, I want to make like this thing. So David Koepp took that scene from Back to the Future and I was like, you know what, this could be a cool scene, let's put it in this movie. It's just like, come on, dude.
So like I said, the suspension of disbelief is gone within the first 10 minutes of this movie. So you get this scene where they get Indy out, and this is another example where I don't think anybody in Hollywood really knows how magnets work. So that whole scene where he's like, oh, I'll take the gunpowder and throw it in the air and it'll magnetize. I'm like, well, what about the rest of the metal shit? Like their guns and the bullets and the freaking lights and everything. It's like, it all just like conveniently moves when the plot wants it to move. It doesn't make any sense at all. So that immediately, suspension of disbelief. Okay, that's a little weird. Like Indy's always been grounded in really, really realistic scenarios where like, yes, it's extreme. Yes, he could die, but he's scrappy and he gets out of it.
It's a realistic take on some fantastical artifacts.
Right. And just the fight scenes between him and the Nazis in the first couple of movies, like there's nothing crazy about that stuff. It's all like, yeah, you could survive that. Yeah, you could fight off these people. And
I always go back to the first movie, my favorite movie of all time. It really is. Raiders is my favorite movie of all time, and I think part of the reason I hold that movie so high is because there are actual people out there searching for the Ark of the Covenant. They take things that are real and add a fantastical thing to them in the Indiana Jones stories. But, what would happen if we found it and we opened it? Who knows? If all that stuff, that's the kind of stuff I like about these movies.
And like there is like a history of over the top action in Indiana Jones movies, right. Like in Temple of Doom when they jump out of that plane with like an inflatable raft and like land, they break every bone in their body. But but you just go with it because it's an Indiana Jones film. But with this movie, so like when the nuclear blast goes off and the refrigerator gets like blown out, like first of all, he's 65. He wouldn't have survived the impact within that refrigerator. But then like when he gets out and he sees like the big mushroom crown, I'm like, he'd have died from radiation poisoning. Yeah. Like a billion times over.
And even just before that, when they he's fighting that big Russian dude and they fall onto the sled with the rocket behind it.
Yeah.
This thing goes like 1,200 miles an hour. You're telling me they stayed on it, and then when it hits the water and slows down,
they didn't go
those
flying.
guys go flying forward at 1,000 miles an hour. Yeah, it breaks everything. It immediately takes you out of the movie. You're watching this, and you're like, this is not real.
It's just it turned it into a cartoon.
Yeah, they went too cartoony with it. But I have to disagree with it because we're watching the scene where he gets interrogated by the 2 CIA guys, and Harrison looks good for a 60-year-old. Like he's got gray hair, but
he looks fine in this scene. But like when we're first introduced to him, like he just looks like haggard and old, in the first scene. And it's kind of funny because like you mentioned like the big kind of like Russian like henchman guy who I believe the character's name is Dovchenko in the movie. So the actor who played him was originally just like cast for like this small role in the beginning, and there's a scene where Harrison Ford kind of like punches him, and like he kind of like takes the hit and just shows that like it's no big deal that he gets punched. And when they were shooting that scene, Harrison Ford accidentally punched the guy in the face, and he just kind of like smirked at him and shook it off. And I think that's actually the scene that made it into the film. But Spielberg liked it so much, he was like, hey, are you free to do the rest of the movie? And the guy's like, yes. And so like they expanded his part to make him like more of a character in the film. And so like he shows up throughout the entire film and eventually ends up getting eaten by fire ants and Amazon.
Indiana Jones dies, he dies.
So what did you think about the big bad girl? The
Cate Blanchett?
Yeah.
I love her in everything though.
Yeah,
she's
like
great.
The actress
in everything
herself
she does.
The actress herself is great, but for this movie, again, it's cartoony.
Yeah. She's
like, the way you're sucking your lips into those W's. And I'm like, oh my fucking God, dude.
Well, what's funny is, so like Harrison Ford had never worked with Cate Blanchett before. He barely even knew who she was. And so the first time they met was when they were like on set and she was like in full outfit. And one day, like she showed up on set just like regular with like her blonde hair and stuff like that. And he ran into her and he's like, do I know you? Like, what are you doing on set? And she's like, yeah, I've been like in every scene with you so far. And he's like, wait a minute, are you Kate? He totally didn't recognize her out of costume.
I think he might have a dementia.
he was probably high.
Yes. I don't know, dude. Like, I could like the ancient Mayans and the alien conspiracy. Like, that's big. Like, we've all heard that ancient alien stuff.
I'm not saying it's aliens,
but it's like we've all heard that theory, and like
but that doesn't fit the Indiana Jones playbook to me. He's not looking for ancient aliens. He's an artifact hunter. He's a grave robber. So they throw the crystal skull shit in there, which have been debunked. They're bullshit. Everybody knows they're bullshit.
But what if they weren't?
And it just doesn't. It doesn't. Fit.
So you need something that's actually real.
I need something tangible that's based on actual real shit.
I could have seen him go after El Diablo. Or something.
I don't know about the second movie about the rocks, but it makes sense. Those, I'm sure there's some Indian village in the middle of India that have these fucking sacred rocks out there.
That guy's heart out,
while
he was still alive.
And that was a real cult that he dealt with in that movie. That was the thug. That's all real stuff.
Yeah.
The Spear of Destiny, the cup of Christ. What's the
Holy Grail?
Holy Grail. That's all based on actual shit that we've grown up with. This crystal skull. This is like Ancient Aliens meets Indiana Jones, and it's bullshit. It doesn't work.
I mean, part of the interesting aspect of Indiana Jones was like, each movie was kind of based in a different religious mythology. Right. And that religion aspect versus, science, was kind of like an interesting theme throughout all three of those movies. And, you kind of brought it up in our fake intro where, you were talking about, this movie kind of sheds that in favor of more pure like science fiction aspects. And I feel like it robs the movie of an Indiana Jones-ness.
Right.
Because part of what makes Indiana Jones fun is like he's solving these like ancient puzzles. It's almost like the Da Vinci Code before it was the Da Vinci Code, and seeing him go through this stuff is fun. And when that it's all like complete like made up bullshit, it's just kind of like,
it takes you out of it.
Fun.
I feel like this movie is as silly and disappointing as Aliens versus Predators.
Okay, that's a weird connection, but all right.
Aliens. But like how excited people were for an Aliens versus Predators, and then the movie that you got, it was not what you wanted. And then it just kind of ended after way too much time. And I felt similarly about this. Like I saw this movie once in the theater and I never thought I would have to watch it again. And I'm upset.
Yeah, I remember when this came out in the theaters and everyone was so excited. It's like, we're finally getting a new Indiana Jones.
Shia LaBeouf was getting so much press.
Yeah.
Like he was on every single talk show, every single late night show.
He was like the next big Hollywood like leading man.
He was Spielberg's like golden boy.
I mean, him being crazy didn't help things. But
well, this was actually the movie that was the end of his career. And it was because so basically he pissed off Spielberg and Ford, and they kind of like had him blacklisted after this movie. And what happened was, while they were doing press for the movie, Shia LaBeouf was very open in his criticism of it, where he was like, yeah, there's a scene where I'm swinging through the jungle on vines and it's really fucking stupid.
And he never takes his leather stupid jacket off.
Yeah, but the thing is, he's correct.
Well, he's correct, but Spielberg, got really pissed off at him about that. And so did Ford. And they were like, kid, there's a time to be honest. And then there's a time to sell cars. And Harrison Ford was like he's being a fucking idiot, because like, I would never, even if I thought that it was the worst piece of shit movie in the world, I would never, like badmouth a film I'm in while I'm doing press for it. Yeah. And so like, after this happened, basically like it was the beginning of the end for Shia LaBeouf, because he pissed off. Like,
didn't know how to play the game, basically.
Exactly. Well, I think he just didn't care. But like his star was like going into the stratosphere before this movie came out. And because he pissed off all the wrong people, with his attitude afterward, like you don't hear about him anymore.
And around this same time when they were supposed to be like doing press for this, he kept getting arrested for like weird, crazy shit. Like he would like demolish a Walgreens in the middle of the night or something. Like I remember
he pulled an Ezra Miller.
Yeah,
oh
he was
yeah.
Ezra Miller crazy without like the child endangerment.
So Ezra Miller's pulling the Shia LaBeouf. Maybe
He's trying to one up Shia LaBeouf.
He tanked that entire movie.
Oh my gosh.
I heard they're not even going to release
Somebody
it.
needs to do something about it.
Anyway, let's get rid of the real world here and talk about the movie. What do you guys actually think about Henry Jones III, Mutt?
Very much disliked him.
Yeah?
Yeah.
He's super aggressive in this movie.
I hated him immediately when he came on screen. It was
the soda shop.
We're trying to make him James Dean. As soon as he rolls up on his motorcycle,
oh, with his fucking hat, yeah.
They actually based him on Marlon Brando.
Yeah, and the first words out of his mouth,
"You're tearing me apart."
and his first words, "Hey, old man."
Yeah. Oh,
old man,
dude.
I'm like, don't talk to Dr. Jones that way, you little piece of shit. No, he immediately grated on me. Immediately.
Yeah.
And
hey, Gramps, like every chance he got, he would remind the audience of how old Indiana Jones was.
You'll call him Dr. Jones.
Give me short round. Have him come back. But no, he immediately grated on my nerves. Did not like him. I didn't like anything about his character.
Did he ever
I'm pissed
improve?
off that they made him his kid. It's
a bit much.
It's a bit much. Yeah.
I do love Carrie Allen though.
Yeah.
Fuck, I love her. In Raiders, such a freaking crush.
It's Karen Allen.
Karen
Allen.
What did I say?
Yeah. Carrie.
Yeah. My bad.
Yeah.
Karen Allen.
Yeah.
She's freaking gorgeous in the first movie.
Well, what's funny about her is that around the time before they made Raiders of the Lost Ark, she was like part of like the kind of counterculture movement group. It was basically Francis Ford Coppola's like circle of friends, where you had Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, Dave Milius, and a bunch of other like kind of famous directors from like that time period. They'd all kind of like hang out together, and they'd hang out with like actors and actresses, and she was part of that group. So she ended up seducing and sleeping with Steven Spielberg in order to kind of wrap him around her little finger. And that's one of the reasons why she got cast as Miriam in Raiders of the Lost Ark, is because she was banging the director. And but she was like a very kind of like free loving, but also very volatile personality. And so like his relationship with Spielberg's relationship with her was very like up and down. And they brought her back for this movie, and it was kind of an interesting choice because like they have such a complicated like long relationship. But I guess maybe enough time passed where they were like, well, she's not doing anything. Let's bring her back for them.
She was a toll booth operator in like New Jersey or something before this movie came out. Like her acting career had like disappeared, and she had gotten like a day job and shit. And
well, she'd also struggled with alcoholism and stuff like that. And
Yeah,
so,
I think she had some mental health
Yeah.
Did
issues
she?
that she just took a break from acting for a while.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I love seeing her back in this. Like that was the one positive about this movie because I loved her in the first movie, and I was like,
Yeah.
so freaking cool to have Ravenwood back in here. It's awesome.
There's a lot of headcanon about what a predator Indiana Jones is concerning her character. Like,
I was a child. You knew what you were doing. Like that whole
lore
yeah.
is that she was not of consenting age when they started their relationship.
Yeah, it's weird if you start diving into it. Fun fact about this scene that we're watching right now when they're going through the college area. This was filmed in a town not too far away from where I lived in Connecticut. And there was open casting for extras to come in. And I almost got to go, but I was an idiot and I had other things work.
And then you'd have to tell people that you were in this
And then,
movie.
I mean, like,
you're in a movie that doesn't exist.
and I'm like, would that be dodging a bullet, or is that something I should have been like, yeah, at least I'm in something like that, you know? Like I was in the Indiana Jones movie. Oh, that shitty one, yeah.
So they actually tried to get Sean Connery to come back for this movie, but Sean Connery was like, "Fuck you guys."
He was already in
I'm
retirement.
retired.
Yeah, I'm glad they didn't. I didn't need that.
But basically, they were going to bring back him and Sala Rhys Davis, that actor, John Rhys Davies, and a few other people from the previous movies to show up at the wedding at the end. And they everyone eventually said like, I don't want to do a cameo. I'm going to turn that down. So
really,
yeah,
that's weird. Yeah. I don't know what else to say about this movie, man. It's just like all the way through, there's little bits.
You want to talk about the weird Mayan ninjas at the grave
that don't make any sense, and they don't know where they came from?
Yeah, where are they supposed to?
Oh, are we talking about the grave site, or are we talking about the actual Mayan the temple?
The grave site.
The grave site, yeah.
And there's that weird scene where Indiana Jones like blows like the dart gun into the guy's mouth.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, that's not how that works.
It doesn't matter.
It would have gone in backwards.
Yeah.
You don't have poison on both ends of the dart, you dummy.
The only thing like I can think that was redeeming about that is like once they got into the tomb and he's actually solving puzzles and he's talking about the history of like the conquistadors.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this feels like Indy.
The spiral staircase.
Right, yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah, and when he cuts open the thing and he's like, oh my God, he looks like he's still alive. And then he disintegrates right there. I was like, fuck, this is Indiana Jones.
That was cool.
Like, give me some more of this shit. Yeah. This is cool. And then they derail it and they go off in this freaking ridiculous jungle chase.
Yeah, you know what's weird about this movie is that, so in the previous 3 Indiana Jones movies, all the action set pieces, number one, like they're a lot of fun, but number 2, like they're very much connected to the story, you know, like it's one of those things where like you're invested in the outcome of the set piece because it has a direct impact on the story. And in this movie, it just felt like the action was kind of thrown in there and it didn't have any bearing on the story and it became boring.
Kind of like Pirates of the Caribbean and the sequels of that, where it's all about the set pieces.
Yeah. What it feels like is like they had ideas for like, oh, we'd love it if we had a chase in the jungle with these giant machines. And then, oh, we'd love it if we had a fight scene when they're surrounded by like Amazonian ants. And oh, we'd love it if we had this. And they just are like, well, how do we make the plot move around these set pieces? Like it just feels like they had ideas that they wanted to put together and they just kind of like strung it along. It didn't really have anything to do with the story itself.
Yeah, I agree.
How would you fix it?
Not
Mark Wahlberg?
I don't think.
I don't even think Mark Wahlberg
I don't think
can
there's any
fix
fixing
this.
it.
I mean,
no, you need a completely different story.
I think it shouldn't be an Indiana Jones movie.
I think no. I think you could make an Indiana Jones 4. Like if back in when did this come out?
2008.
2008. They could do that, and they could do the South American Mayan culture thing.
There's entire cities still covered in jungle down there,
right?
You don't know nothing
like
about.
There's a lot of cool shit you could talk about.
I mean, they even mentioned El Dorado, the city of gold.
Yeah.
Have you guys heard that theory that Hitler escaped and went to South America?
Oh yeah.
Well, you can't use Nazis though.
The Rock
but
movie.
you wouldn't be using Nazis because the Nazis would be gone. You'd just be on the hunt like for like Hitler.
I mean, okay. So here it is.
Say Hitler
here it is. The movie's about Indy searching for the lost city of gold,
El Dorado,
but the city has been taken over by the Nazis who escaped to South America from World War II, and they have a new big bad who's the leader of the South American Nazi.
Yeah.
And so he ends up stopping the Fourth Reich in the middle of looking for his Lost City of Gold.
And then
that's it.
That's
I fixed it.
You fixed
I
it.
fucking fixed
Make
it.
the
Fuck
fucking
you, Steven Spielberg.
Make-
I just fixed your shit.
Whoa, make the
There's the
MacGuffin,
movie.
make the MacGuffin like a gold mask or some shit,
Yeah.
you know, and have it have some mythical powers or whatever.
Because there is a real El Diablo down there, maybe.
Right.
The Nazis really did go to
Right.
South America, and you just mix it together, and you don't have to have any bullshit,
alien bullshit.
alien transdimensional nonsense.
Or it could be one of those things like, remember the Mayan calendar for like 2020?
Yeah.
It's like, what if he went there to stop the apocalypse?
Yeah.
Oh
something.
yeah, 2012 was right around the corner.
2012.
That would have
I
been
mean,
good.
he could have been going down there and not even knowing he was going to be hanging out with the Nazis, but they're
Yeah.
the ones that are running the stuff, and he didn't.
There could have been a cool
and then
portrayal.
and then he could have like had the scene there's like where he's like looking through his binoculars, and he's like,
Nazis. I
Nazis.
hate these guys.
And what if Short Round is grown up now and
Yes.
he's also a professor?
Yes.
And
What?
they get together and they collaborate.
Get rid of Mutt
Get rid
and
of
bring
Mutt.
Short Round back.
we
Yeah.
totally fixed it. That would have been a really good movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Short Round is the one who's like, Dr. Jones, we have a problem in South America. I need your help. I found this fucking gold mask that like
Yeah.
gives people
And
everlasting
they
life.
walk into a cantina and Kate Capshaw is like bartending, or she's like the actor. He's like, oh, this fucking bitch.
Yeah, you have Scarlett Johansson as like the new young hottie
Yeah.
that falls for him because she's got daddy issues.
No.
I want
Go
that
too
movie.
far. First of all, stop slut shaming people for sleeping with the director. She got a great role out of it. And then Scarlett Johansson is never going to fall for him.
That's a great movie. I would watch that movie.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
Yeah.
Can we fit Mark Wahlberg in there somehow?
Sure. Why
I'm
not?
kind of over Mark Wahlberg.
But yeah, Mutt doesn't need to be a character at
Yeah.
all.
No.
He doesn't need
Yeah.
to be there.
I agree.
Um,
Take off your jacket. Your stupid monogrammed jacket.
well, he does have it monogrammed, doesn't he? God, it
Mutt.
says Mutt.
Got some good flair there on the side, though.
You like your buttons, huh?
Keep his hair nice and combed.
Yeah.
So
He looks like a
stupid.
Dapper Dan man.
Oh my god. Anyway, shit, I can't think of anything else to say about this movie. It's not good, dude. It's
Yeah.
not
No.
fun. There's a character. Oh, Mac is his name. Mac, his
Mac.
buddy,
His
his British guy, the triple agent. That dude was so annoying.
Oh, it's okay, Jonesy.
Jonesy.
Remember back in the day when we were fighting all these Nazi guys?
Do you remember Berlin? I was like,
Yeah.
shut
Yeah.
up,
Ray,
dude.
Ray Winstone.
I love that actor. He's a cool guy, and I like him in a lot of movies, but he did not work in this movie.
No.
He was grating and annoying. All right, so before we finish off this conversation, we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to refill my whiskey. We'll be right back.
You're going to need it.
Welcome back, everybody. Hey, if you guys like what we do here and you want to support us, head over to saltynerdclub.com and join the membership area. We do 4 exclusive podcasts just for our club members. This month, we're talking Star Trek, the original series. We're having a ton of fun doing it. So if you're into that kind of thing and you want to join us, head over to the club membership area. It's only $5 a month. You guys can get a huge value. We do a ton of stuff with our club members, and we love hanging out with them. So head over there, help support the podcast, help support what we do here, and providing entertainment. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Yeah, you know what? The real problem with this is that no one told George Lucas that his ideas sucked.
Yeah.
And there was no one to kind of like stand up to him.
I've always
about
got the impression that everybody kind of knew that. Like if you look at interviews at the time,
Yeah.
like Harrison and Spielberg kind of both like rib George a little bit about how ridiculous the story is. And I'm like, come on, guys, you couldn't have freaking put the pressure on a little bit.
I always wonder how the people who make these things like this, and this goes for today too, with all these terrible shows
Star
that we're
Wars and
watching,
shit, yeah.
how the makers and creators and producers and story writers of these things can't look at these things objectively and realize that they're not good. We can. Everybody we know can. It's like, take a step back and look at your creation and be critical, because this isn't respectful to its predecessors at all. They're just no good. And you know, they have this problem in Star Wars and Star Trek and all these other things that have come out. It's just, I don't get it.
Is it just the franchise itself is outliving its place?
Dude, we just fixed this movie. If they had written a movie like that, we would have been completely cool with it.
Yeah.
We would have said, oh, Indy's getting a little old, but you know, he wasn't old enough in this movie to where he didn't really pull it
But
off.
then Short Round could have been the main character
Well,
in the
sure.
5th one that they're making
Yeah,
right
yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And
Pass the torch.
Pass the torch.
Which is what they were trying to do with Mutt.
Yeah, and it didn't work.
No,
because
nobody
Shia,
liked
Shia LaBeouf is just a genuinely unlikable dude.
Not just Shia LaBeouf, just
Yeah.
the character Mutt himself was like grating and annoying, and he didn't seem
Stop
like he.
combing your fucking hair.
Yeah, I know. Right?
I'm James
Imagine
Dean.
somebody who's always messing with their hair
it's
all the
like-
time.
Yeah, you know, a big issue with this movie is that by the time they finally got around to making it, Spielberg had evolved as a filmmaker from like his time in the 80s and early 90s. And, you know, the cinematographer for the first 3 Indiana Jones movies had retired. And so like Spielberg used like his current cinematographer, who's Janusz Kaminski, I think his name is. And he had to basically mimic the original cinematographer's style, which is very different from his own style. And Spielberg basically had to be like, okay, I have to try to figure out how to direct this like I was doing it back in the 80s. And so like, you know, it almost feels like they were doing a poor imitation of like themselves,
Yeah.
which was very strange. And they weren't kind of like standing up to George Lucas. Like if there's anyone who could tell George that his ideas were dumb, it's Spielberg. But I think at any point, like Lucas was just basically like, hey, you know, like if you don't like my ideas, I'm just going to walk. And then like this movie doesn't get made. And so everyone just kind of like went along with like what he wanted because he's the producer.
Blackmail, dude. I don't like that. Is this after the prequels?
Yes.
So he's salted over about the prequels then, basically.
No, he's mulling selling it to Disney at this point, probably.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like he hated the backlash for the prequels. He was like,
maybe he should have made him better.
he was like, hey, the freaking, you know, it's not fun making movies anymore because everybody thinks they can
It's
do
like
it better.
I'm never going to apologize for being one of these people that dogged on the prequels
They're not
because
great.
they're not good.
I mean, George Lucas is not a good writer. Like
No.
he's a good idea guy. He's got a great imagination, but like he's not a good writer. And so like when he comes up with these stories that he writes, and then he brings in like, you know, like another screenwriter to come in and kind of like fix it up. Like you might get like a decent thing out of it, but you know, if you look at like The Empire Strikes Back, Lawrence Kasdan was the one who wrote that movie.
And Kushner directed it.
Yeah, and so like that's one of the reasons why that movie works so well is because George Lucas actually didn't write any of it.
Once they get to the Lost City or whatever, and those people start coming out of the walls, is there any explanation for like
Talking about when they're at the pyramid
Mhm.
and then
and they get chased by the
tribal
Yeah, yeah.
protectors are there?
and they come out of the walls? Is that like a mythology thing? Do they
No
are they
idea.
dead? Are they alive?
I think they're just a tribe of indigenous people that are
they stayed there.
to
Yeah,
protect
they just hang out in the walls
yeah.
waiting for some random to come along. so
That's
they
what
can-
like it didn't make any sense.
There's tribes of primitives that lives in the Amazon
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, but I'm saying like in this movie, they literally come out of the walls once somebody walks into the area.
Yeah, I don't
Like,
know.
do they just are they just like undead people that stay there?
No, they're not undead.
Yeah. I mean, one of the fun things about the previous Indiana Jones movies is like there would be traps, right? Like every time like he'd kind of venture into like a tomb or like kind of get close to like an artifact, there were booby traps that he would have to either outthink or overcome or like whatever. And those were always really cool. In this movie, it's severely lacking in booby traps. It's just kind of like, oh, the Russians showed up and they're going to attack you, or there are Indian ninjas out there.
Or
They're
the spiral
gonna-
staircase, but like they were already at the bottom when it finally like went into the wall.
Yeah. Yeah, this movie just misses on all points, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is David Koepp's fault, who's the screenwriter on this. Like he basically took like it's the same thing that when we talked about King Arthur and the Legend of the Sword, where like there were so many drafts of screenplay that they just took like bits and pieces from every screenplay and kind of mashed them together.
Yeah.
It was very similar with this one as well, where they took like, you know, Frank Darabont's script and like, you know, a bunch of other drafts of the script that were rejected for good reason, and kind of like put bits and pieces of them together and like, how do we make this all fit into a screenplay? And David Koepp, you know, he's the one who basically came up with the final version of the script, but Spielberg and Lucas had to approve it.
Yeah.
And it was just like, come on, guys.
So even like some of the sight gags that like the snake being used for the rope.
Oh god. That was-
Cringe.
yeah.
Absolute cringe. It's like, come on, guys. You can't think of something a little bit.
Oh, but
better.
he's afraid of snakes.
I mean, okay.
Don't you remember?
They
It's a
didn't have.
callback.
They could have done something different. He's in the jungle, you know. But
How about if he fell into a pit of snakes?
Well, he did that already
Yeah, we
in
did that in
the
the first
first,
movie.
second, and third one. Okay, so the other thing, one of my last criticisms of this movie, because I don't like just bashing on it, but there's not a lot to like.
this one needs smashed. It's okay.
Everything, if you look back at the first three, like especially Raiders of the Lost Ark, if everything felt like it was shot on site, like it was big and epic, and even the scenes where he's stuck inside that Egyptian tomb with all the snakes, like that felt big and epic. everything that I'm seeing on screen right now, we're watching it on the side here, from the beginning of this movie all the way until this graveyard so far, everything just feels like a really small soundstage.
Except for the college chase.
The college chase was big, but that was shot on location.
Yeah.
Everything else feels like it was shot on a stage, and it's all very like, okay, this is, you walk around this corner, but then like on the left is like a freaking 2x4. Like it feels small, claustrophobic, and not authentic.
Yeah.
Like the other movies, I always felt like they were real. They felt like they belonged there.
There's like so much of this that's filmed in like a bunker.
Yeah. And it's just, I don't know, man. Just doesn't. This is why it doesn't exist.
I just, yeah.
This is a real bummer. You guys are all like,
really
yeah.
is. I don't know why people are still listening to us.
No, this video will get 10,000 views, probably. But it's like if they
Indiana
dared talk
Jones
about
4
the
is
movie that
bad
shall not be
and
named. What? But
It's like the Voldemort of movies.
it really is. In our world, it is.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna.
Final thoughts. Give it a rating.
Man, I'm gonna go 1-star crap fest. I have nothing but loathing and disdain for this movie, and it's not my indie, you know. And I hate saying that kind of stuff because, you know, Indy is my jam. He's my favorite dude. It's my favorite movie ever. I like Indy more than Star Wars, you know.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. It doesn't resonate. It's just a bad idea from the get-go. And it really upsets me that we just fixed it.
That's all you had to do,
it
man.
would have been good. It would have been good.
Yeah.
We would have had our traditional bad guys and a cool story along with it. So whatever.
And Short Round
Fuck
came
you,
back.
Spielberg, asshole.
There's so many people out there who have written like a fourth Indiana Jones movie that includes Short Round. Like, we're not the only ones who fixed this movie.
No.
But I do like the South American motif worked. You know, I like all that stuff. The Mayan culture, Aztec culture. Like, like dive into it, but like make it Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I'm going 1-star crap fest.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Jude?
You guys, I think we should be careful because we already have one Indiana Jones director that came for us. I really don't want Steven Spielberg.
Listen, if Steven Spielberg came after us, it would be the best thing that ever happened for
we
the
would
show.
disappear. They would remove us.
Be the next Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, we'd be Shia LaBeouf by Spielberg.
And we
Don't
would say,
Shia LaBeouf us.
and we would say, how dare you make this movie?
Is he even involved in the fifth one?
I don't
As a
know.
producer. Yeah.
Shia LaBeouf is going to play Meryl Streep in our feature film, Fuck You, Meryl Streep.
I don't think I can work with him.
Indiana Jones and the Geriatric Adventures of the Money Grab. That's what's coming up. Yeah. So they can pass it off to a chick. Let her pick up the hat at the end of it. Awesome. Can't wait.
Just wait for it.
Good job, Mangold.
Wait for it.
Fuck. All right.
Jude, go ahead.
I hate it. I never thought I would have to revisit it. I have always appreciated that you guys don't even acknowledge it, and I thought that made me safe from having to watch it again.
me too.
Apparently, there is no safe place. It's a 1-star crap fest,
Okay.
and I don't have the love of indie that you guys have. I like them. I can rewatch them. This has zero rewatchability, and that's what makes it a 1-star crap fest for me.
Okay. Kitch?
I'm with Vader in the sense that I love the Indiana Jones franchise.
Mhm.
It's one of my favorite film franchise ever. It's Spielberg at his best. You know, I feel like Raiders of the Lost Ark, Last Crusade, Temple of Doom, all three are just classic movies, and I can watch them a million times, never get tired of them. This movie, I get tired of within the first like 5 minutes, and it makes it very hard to watch it. And it's actually heartbreaking at like how bad this movie is, considering like how beloved the franchise is as a whole. And it's kind of funny because in Temple of Doom, Dan Aykroyd has like a little cameo in there.
Dan
at the
Aykroyd's
very
in Temple of
beginning.
Doom?
Yeah. He's at the beginning. He's the guy who charters the flight.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. I remember that.
And-
now.
Missed that.
And he has you know, his Crystal Skull vodka, you know, and so like every time I saw the trailer for this movie, I was like, is this just like a big plug for Dan Aykroyd's vodka company?
We have some of that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's a very weird title. I don't like it. I don't like anything about this movie. I kind of wish that it hadn't been made.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
But that being said, it's very hard for me to give a Steven Spielberg movie a 1 star because despite all of its flaws, like there are elements to this movie that I liked while I was watching it. So I'm going to give it 2 crystal skulls out of 5.
All right.
I can't give it a 1.
Okay.
You're a shill.
I shill for Spielberg.
I'm going to say it's a 1-star crap fest. Unfortunately, I really don't like saying that. It's not something I enjoy saying, but it is unfortunately a 1-star crap fest. 1 switchblade comb out of 5.
I used to have one of those.
But because the movie doesn't exist, none of these ratings mean anything.
Doesn't
That's
matter.
right. Yeah. All right. Are you guys ready to go back to our normal universe?
Yes.
Okay. Bye, everybody. All right, everybody, that's it for the podcast today. Thank you guys for joining us. Hope you guys enjoyed the theme of the week, which is good directors, bad movies. Our next theme is going to be, I can't believe I'm saying this, but the next,
what it is. What is it?
Movies about making porn. So,
Are we really doing that?
yeah, Zach and Miri make a
Nice.
porno.
Damn it! I gotta start going to coffee with you guys.
I didn't pick this theme either, Jude. I'm with you.
Yeah, The Girl Next Door and Boogie Nights. I
Yeah,
believe.
Boogie Nights and Zach and Miri make a porno. So tune in next week where the theme is movies about making porn. Vader, where can they find you on the
Don't be so
socials?
excited.
Oh my God, I can't with this freaking theme.
Wow.
Vader, where can they find you on the socials?
You can find me at MattVader74 on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and some of the other ones.
All right.
Just look, I'm there.
Jude, where can they find you at?
You can find me at I am Jude Juju on Instagram and on TikTok.
Okay. Matthew Kadish.
You can find me at Matthew Kadish, Kadish on Twitter. KadishBooks.com takes you to my Amazon page. And also go to saltylist.com, sign up for our newsletter.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. We'd really appreciate it. Comment below what you thought of this movie. And that's it. We're done. Stay salty.